The morning alarm beeped 3 times before Captain Tae-ho Kim opened his eyes. Another day on Outpost K7, his home for the past 3 months. He stretched and walked to the small window of his quarters. Outside, the twin moons of Nexus Prime hung low in the purple sky. "Captain Kim, your presence is requested in the diplomatic hall," the computer announced. "Ambassador June of the Ravi wishes to continue yesterday's trade discussions." Tae-ho sighed. The Ravi were peaceful beings, but their cautious nature made negotiations move at a painfully slow pace. As the human representative to the Federation of Aligned Worlds, his job was to establish good relations with this newly discovered species. So far, progress had been steady but unremarkable. "Tell Ambassador June I'll be there in 30 minutes, he replied, pulling on his blue Terran Exploration Fleet uniform. After a quick breakfast, Tae-ho made his way through the corridors of the outpost. The station had been built as a neutral meeting ground between humans and the Ravi. One half featured human architecture with straight lines and bright lighting. The other half accommodated Ravi preferences: curved walls, dim blue lighting, and plenty of shadowy corners where the insect-like aliens could feel secure. Security Officer Hanul met him at the border between the 2 sections. She was tall and serious, with her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. "Morning, Captain," she said with a quick salute. The Ravi delegation arrived early. They seemed nervous today. "More nervous than usual?" Tae-ho asked with a small smile. The Ravi always seemed nervous to human eyes. Their entire civilization had evolved around avoiding confrontation rather than facing it. They've reported increased predator activity near the outpost. Apparently there's been a Nex wolf pack moving closer to the cleared zone. Tae-ho nodded. Nex wolves were the apex predators on this moon. 6-legged creatures with razor-sharp teeth and excellent night vision. The Ravi feared them more than anything. "I'll keep that in mind during our talks," Tae-ho said as they entered the diplomatic hall. Ambassador June waited inside, his forearms folded in the traditional Ravi greeting position. His exoskeleton shimmered with a blue-green iridescence that indicated his high status among his people. 2 other Ravi stood behind him. Science, Liaison Ravi Tel and Security Chief Mava. "Greetings, Captain Kim," Ambassador June spoke through his translator device. "We appreciate your punctuality." "Good morning, Ambassador," Tae-ho replied with a slight bow. "I understand there are concerns about Nex wolf activity." The 3 Ravi chittered among themselves briefly before Ambassador June responded. "Yes, our scouts have detected increased movements. We believe a territorial dispute among the Nex wolf packs has pushed some of them closer to our settlement and your outpost. We strongly advise restricting all outdoor activities." Tae-ho nodded. "We'll issue an advisory to all human personnel. Now shall we continue our discussion about the mineral rights agreement?" The meeting dragged on for 3 hours. By the time they finished, Tae-ho had a headache forming behind his right eye. The Ravi insisted on examining every possible outcome before agreeing to anything. It was exhausting but necessary work. After the meeting, Tae-ho decided to clear his head with a short walk around the perimeter of the outpost. He checked his sidearm, a standard-issue stunner, and informed Hanul of his plans. "The Ravi just warned us about Nex wolves, and now you want to take a walk outside." Hanul frowned. "At least take a security drone with you." "I'll stay within sight of the perimeter defenses," Tae-ho promised as he activated a small hovering drone to follow him. "And I'll keep my emergency beacon ready." The afternoon air was cool and smelled faintly of the purple vegetation that covered much of the moon's surface. Tae-ho followed the cleared path around the outpost, enjoying the break from artificial lighting and recycled air. The drone hummed quietly behind him, scanning for threats. He had almost completed his circuit when the drone beeped an alert. Something was moving in the tall grass about 50 meters ahead. Tae-ho drew his stunner and approached cautiously. A low growl emerged from the purple foliage. Tae-ho stopped, signaling the drone to illuminate the area. In the bright light, he saw it. A Nex wolf larger than any he had seen in the briefing holograms. Its 6 powerful legs were tensed, ready to spring, but something was wrong. The creature wasn't advancing. It remained in place, growling weakly. Tae-ho moved closer, ignoring the drone's automated warnings. The Nex wolf's midnight black fur was matted with dark blue blood on its right side. A deep gash ran along its flank, likely from a fight with another Nex wolf. The predator was badly wounded and clearly weakening. Without thinking twice, Taeho pressed his communication badge. Medical Bay, this is Captain Kim. I need a field med kit brought to my location immediately. And tell Officer Jin to bring a hover, stretcher. Sir? Came the confused reply. Our scanners show you've encountered a hostile life form. It's injured, Taeho explained. Not currently a threat. Please hurry with that medkit. While waiting, Taeho slowly approached the Nex wolf, keeping his movements calm and predictable. The creature watched him with golden eyes, still growling but with decreasing strength. It's okay, Taeho said softly. I'm not going to hurt you. He didn't notice the Ravi observation post on the hill above, where Ambassador June and Science Liaison Ravitel watched with their compound eyes wide in shock. The human approaches the predator voluntarily, Ravitel chittered in disbelief. Is this some form of ritual suicide? Alert their security forces, Ambassador June ordered. The human leader has clearly lost his mind. Down below, Medical Officer Jin arrived with the requested supplies. She gasped when she saw Taeho kneeling just 3 meters from the injured Nex wolf. Captain, please step back slowly, she whispered urgently. Help me sedate it first, Taeho replied calmly. I've been watching its breathing pattern. It's going into shock from blood loss. Jin looked at her captain as if he had suggested they should fly without a ship, but years of military training took over. She prepared a tranquilizer dart and handed it to Taeho. This should be enough to sedate a creature of that size for about 30 minutes, she explained. With careful aim, Taeho fired the dart into the Nex wolf's shoulder. The creature flinched but was too weak to react further. Within moments, its golden eyes closed as the sedative took effect. By now, a small crowd had gathered at a safe distance. Officer Hanul pushed through, her face a mixture of anger and concern. Captain, what are you doing? That's an apex predator. It's also a living being that needs help, Taeho replied as he and Jin approached the unconscious Nex wolf. He knelt beside the creature and began cleaning the wound with antiseptic. From their observation post, the Ravi watched in stunned silence as Taeho treated the Nex wolf's injury, applying biofoam to stop the bleeding and using a tissue regenerator to speed healing. I have never seen such behavior, Ambassador June whispered. To approach a Nex wolf is madness. To heal one, he couldn't even finish the thought. As Taeho worked, he spoke softly to the sedated creature. You'll be okay, just a few more minutes. When he finished, he instructed Jin to help him load the Nex wolf onto the hover stretcher. Where are you taking it? Hanul demanded. To the auxiliary storage bay. We can convert it into a temporary recovery space, Taeho replied. I'll need to monitor this one for a few days. Hanul opened her mouth to protest but stopped when Ambassador June and his delegation approached from the direction of their observation post. Captain Kim, the ambassador's translator, conveyed his words with a notable tremor. We have witnessed your interaction with the Nex wolf predator. We do not understand this behavior. Taeho looked up from adjusting the stretcher. It was injured and suffering. Where I come from, we help when we can. But it is a predator. Ravitel interjected, the most dangerous creature in this region. They hunt Ravi. They have for thousands of years. Taeho nodded. I understand. But on Earth, humans have a long history of helping injured animals, even predators. Especially predators sometimes. The Ravi's antennae twitched in confusion as they watched Taeho gently place his hand on the sedated Nex wolf's head. I think I'll call her Midnight, he said softly, because of her fur, and that was when the Ravi first began to suspect that what they were witnessing wasn't simply mercy for a suffering creature. It was something they had no concept for in their language or culture, something that would change their understanding of humans forever. Security Officer Hanul stood outside the converted storage bay with her arms crossed. She had been against this idea from the start, but Captain Taeho rarely changed his mind once he decided on something. Through the clear observation window, she watched as he knelt beside the sedated Nex wolf, now resting on a makeshift bed of thermal blankets. How long will it be unconscious? She asked as Medical Officer Jin emerged from the room. Another hour, maybe 2, Jin replied, removing her protective gloves. The wound was deep but clean, no signs of infection yet. The captain has named it Midnight, by the way. Hanul rolled her eyes. Naming it already? That's not a good sign. You know how he is with animals, Jin said with a small smile. He showed me pictures of his pets back on Earth last week. 3 dogs, 2 cats, and even a rescued hawk. This isn't that different for him. A Nexwolf is not a dog, Hanul countered. It's an apex predator that could tear him apart if it wanted to. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ambassador June and Science Liaison Ravi Tell. The 2 Ravi moved cautiously, their compound eyes fixed on the sleeping predator behind the window. We request a formal discussion regarding this situation, Ambassador June announced through his translator. The High Council has expressed serious concerns about housing a Nexwolf within the outpost. Hanul nodded. I share those concerns, Ambassador, but Captain Kim has made his decision. The creature stays until it recovers. Science Liaison. Ravitel stepped closer to the window, his antennae quivering with what Hanul had learned to recognize as nervous curiosity. Your captain's behavior defies logical explanation, Ravitel said. The Nexwolf species has been responsible for countless Ravi deaths throughout our history. We developed our entire civilization around avoiding their hunting grounds. Humans have a different approach to predators, Jin explained. On Earth, many dangerous animals have been tamed over thousands of years. Tamed? The Ravi's translator couldn't quite capture the confusion in Ambassador June's voice. What does this mean, tamed? It means to make something wild become gentle or friendly, Hanul said. To teach it not to attack, to follow commands. The 2 Ravi looked at each other, their antennae touching briefly in their species' version of a private conversation. Then Ambassador June turned back to the humans. We wish to observe this process of taming. For scientific purposes. Over the next week, a small observation team of Ravi scientists took turns watching Captain Taeho's interactions with Midnight. At first, they stayed behind the safety of the window. As the Nexwolf recovered strength, Taeho began spending more time with the creature. The morning routine always started the same way. Taeho would enter with fresh meat from the synthesizer, speaking in a soft, steady voice. Good morning, Midnight. How are you feeling today? The Nexwolf would raise its massive head, golden eyes following his movements. During the first few days, it would growl when he approached with food. By the end of the week, it merely watched, accepting the offering with cautious sniffs before eating. On the 8th day, Ambassador June witnessed something that sent ripples of shock through the entire Ravi delegation. Taeho sat beside the fully conscious Nexwolf and slowly, carefully placed his hand on its head. Instead of biting his arm off, Midnight leaned slightly into the touch. The predator accepts physical contact, June reported to the High Council that evening. It allows the human to touch vulnerable areas like its head and neck. We cannot explain this behavior. By the 10th day, Midnight's wound had healed enough for more active rehabilitation. Taeho cleared a section of the storage bay and began teaching the Nexwolf basic commands. Sit, he would say, gently pressing on the creature's hindquarters while holding a piece of meat above its head. After several tries, Midnight began to connect the word with the action, sitting when commanded without the physical guidance. Stay, was the next command. Taeho would place the Nexwolf in a sitting position, back away slowly while holding out his hand, palm forward, and repeat the word. Midnight learned this one even faster. Science Liaison Ravi Tell spent hours recording these training sessions, his normally reserved demeanor giving way to unbridled scientific fascination. The Nexwolf is intelligent, he explained to Hanul one afternoon. We always knew this, which is why they are so dangerous, but we never imagined they could be. Cooperative. Hanul had grown more relaxed about the situation as the days passed. Captain Kim has a way with animals. Back on Earth, he worked with rescue organizations that rehabilitated abused and injured creatures. But why? Ravitel asked. What benefit does he gain from this relationship? Hanul thought for a moment. companionship, protection. On Earth, humans have lived alongside domesticated animals for thousands of years. They help us hunt, guard our homes, even find people lost in natural disasters. But mostly, we just enjoy their company. The concept seemed to confuse Ravitel, whose species had evolved to hide from predators rather than befriend them. By the end of the second week, Midnight was following Teho around the storage bay like a shadow, responding to a growing list of verbal commands. The next wolf even allowed Jin to examine its healing wound without growling. The true breakthrough came when Captain Teho requested permission to take Midnight for a short walk outside the outpost. Security Officer Hanul insisted on a full security detail, but Teho refused. Too many people will make her nervous. Just you and me, with stunners as a precaution. Ambassador June and his team watched from a safe distance as Teho attached something to Midnight's neck, a simple collar with a leash made from reinforced cable. "This is how we walk dogs on Earth," Teho explained to Hanul. "It gives us control while allowing them some freedom." As they stepped outside, Midnight tensed, her 6 legs spreading slightly in a defensive posture. The familiar smells of her natural habitat triggered hunting instincts. For a moment, Hanul's hand moved to her stunner. "Easy, Midnight," Teho said calmly. "Heal." To everyone's amazement, the next wolf relaxed and fell into position beside him. They walked slowly around the perimeter of the outpost, the predator matching Teho's pace perfectly. When a small rodent-like creature darted across their path, Midnight's muscles bunched, ready to spring. Hanul raised her stunner, but Teho quickly gave a sharp command. "Leave it." Midnight stopped, looking up at Teho with what almost appeared to be confusion. The natural instinct to chase prey battled with the new desire to obey the human's command. After a tense moment, the next wolf relaxed and continued walking beside Teho. "Incredible," Hanul whispered. "It actually chose to follow your order over its hunting instinct." From their observation point, the Ravi delegation watched in stunned silence. Ambassador June turned to Science Liaison Ravitel. "I believe we have misunderstood something fundamental about humans," June said quietly. "When we first saw Captain Kim helping the injured next wolf, we thought it was mercy, a concept we understand even if we would never apply it to predators." Ravitel's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "But this is different. The human has established dominance over a next wolf without violence or fear. It obeys him willingly." "Yes," June agreed. "This is not mercy or charity. The predator has become something else, a companion species. The human language has a word for this. Pet," Ravitel said, the translator giving the word a strange emphasis. "They call it a pet." That evening, as Teho fed Midnight her dinner, he noticed Ambassador June watching from the observation window. The Ravi had been a constant but distant observer until now. Tonight, June pressed a communication button. "May I enter, Captain Kim?" the ambassador asked. Teho looked surprised but nodded. "Of course. Midnight is calm after her walk." The door slid open, and for the first time, a Ravi voluntarily entered the same enclosed space as a next wolf. Ambassador June moved cautiously, his 4 arms held close to his body in a defensive posture. "She won't hurt you," Teho assured him. "Midnight, friend," he said, gesturing toward the ambassador. The next wolf looked at the Ravi, her golden eyes assessing but not aggressive. She remained sitting beside Teho. "Our species has feared next wolves for our entire evolutionary history," Ambassador June said quietly. "We built our cities underground to escape them. We developed cloaking technology to hide from them. And yet, in 2 weeks, you have turned one into a pet." Teho smiled. "Not quite a pet yet, but we're getting there. Would you like to try giving her a treat?" Ambassador June's compound eyes widened in what Hanul had learned to recognize as the Ravi expression of extreme surprise. "That," the ambassador said, "would be a historic first step." 3 weeks after Midnight's rescue, Captain Teho sat in the main control room of Outpost K7 with his senior staff. Outside, The larger of the two moons cast a pale blue light across the landscape. Security Officer Han Newell stood by the window, watching the horizon with a worried expression. "The solar activity report doesn't look good," Technician Jin said, pointing to the screen showing the local star. Angry red flares erupted from its surface. "We're detecting massive solar flare buildup. Much bigger than anything we've seen since establishing the outpost." Taeho frowned. "What's your assessment of the risk?" "High," Jin replied bluntly. "If a major flare hits us directly, our shields might not hold. We could lose main power." "How long until the danger period passes?" Han Newell asked. Jin checked her. Calculations again. "The star will rotate the active region away from us in about 72 hours. Until then, we're in the line of fire." "Alert all personnel," Taeho ordered, "and inform the Ravi delegation. They should prepare for possible emergency measures." The warning came too late. Just as Han Newell reached for the communication panel, the sky outside flashed with blinding, white light. A moment later, the outpost shuddered as if struck by a giant hand. The lights flickered 3 times before going out completely. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the control room in dim red glow. Alarms blared throughout the outpost. "Status report," Taeho demanded as Jin frantically worked at her console. "Direct hit," she said, her voice tense. "Main power grid is down. Shields collapsed. We're running on emergency generators now." "Casualties?" "None. Reported yet," Han Newell said, checking the internal sensors. "But the atmospheric regulation system is showing critical errors. The main filtration units were on the external grid." Jin looked up from her console, her face pale in the red emergency light. "Captain, without main power, the backup life support systems will only last 48 hours. After that, oxygen levels will become critical." Taeho took a deep breath. "Priorities, then." "Jin, focus all available personnel on restoring main power. Han Newell, conduct a full sweep of the outpost for any injuries or structural damage. I'll speak with the Ravi delegation." The Ravi section of the outpost was in chaos when Taeho arrived. The insect-like aliens moved rapidly through the corridors, their chittering communications sounding panicked even without translation. "Ambassador." June met Taeho at the entrance to their living quarters. Unlike the other Ravi, who scurried about frantically, the ambassador maintained a dignified calm. "Captain Kim, our sensors detected a massive solar event," June said through his translator. "We have lost connection with our orbital ships. The entire outpost has been affected," Taeho explained. "We've lost main power. Emergency systems are running, but we have limited time to restore critical functions." "How limited?" June asked. 48 hours before oxygen becomes a problem." The ambassador's antennae drooped slightly. "I see. This is most concerning. Our species requires higher oxygen levels than humans." "We'll fix this," Taeho assured him. "My engineer is already working on solutions." As he spoke, Taeho's communicator beeped. "Captain, this is Jin. We've identified the main problem. The power coupling to the solar array was fried by the flare. We need to replace it, but there's a bigger issue." "Go ahead," Taeho said. "The atmospheric system is leaking oxygen somewhere. We're losing it faster than expected, but the sensors are also damaged. We can't pinpoint the exact locations of the leaks. If we can't find and fix them, restoring power won't help." Taeho thought for a moment. "Keep working on the power coupling. I might have a solution for finding the leaks." When he returned to his quarters, midnight greeted him with a soft sound halfway between a growl and a purr. The next wolf had sensed the commotion and stood alert, all 6 legs tense. "It's okay, girl," Taeho said, kneeling to stroke her midnight black fur. "But we need your help now." 20 minutes later, Han Newell stared at Taeho in disbelief. "You want to use the Nex wolf to find the air leaks? Have you lost your mind?" "Nex wolves have evolved to hunt in this environment," Taeho explained. "Their sense of smell is incredibly acute. They can detect the smallest changes in air composition. Midnight can find the leaks by smelling the concentrated oxygen escaping." "And how exactly will she tell us where the leaks are?" Han Newell asked, crossing her arms. "I've been training her for 3 weeks now. She's smart and she responds to commands. We'll start in the areas most likely to have damage, and she'll alert when she detects something. Hanul still looked doubtful, but they were running out of options. Fine, but I'm coming with you, Stunner ready. The news that Captain Tejo planned to use a Nexwolf to search for the air leaks spread quickly through the outpost. A small crowd gathered to watch as he prepared Midnight for the task. Ambassador June and a group of Ravi officials stood at a safe distance, their compound eyes fixed on the predator that their species had feared for millennia. You intend to release that creature into our living areas? June's translator barely captured the mix of fear and disbelief in his voice. Midnight isn't just some wild animal anymore, Tejo explained patiently. She's trained, she responds, to commands. Most importantly, she's bonded with me. Science liaison Ravitel stepped forward. The captain's strategy has merit, he told the other Ravi. Nexwolf olfactory abilities are far superior to our sensors, especially in their current damaged state. Tejo nodded gratefully. We'll start in the human section, then move to yours if you permit it. After a brief discussion among themselves, the Ravi reluctantly agreed. The search began in the areas closest to the exterior walls, where the solar flare's impact would have been strongest. Tejo walked slowly with Midnight on her leash, encouraging her to sniff along the seams of the walls and floor. Find it, Midnight, he repeated. Find the bad air. Hanul followed a few steps behind, Stunner ready. Jin monitored oxygen levels with a portable device. For the first hour, they found nothing. Then, as they entered the cargo section, Midnight suddenly stopped. Her ears perked up and she turned her head sharply toward a small maintenance shaft. She made a low sound in her throat and pawed at the floor, exactly as Tejo had trained her to do when she detected something unusual. She's found something, Tejo said excitedly. Jin, check that shaft. Jin extended her sensor into the narrow opening. She's right. There's a microfracture in the oxygen recycling line. It's small, but it's definitely leaking. While Jin sealed the leak with emergency patching foam, Tejo praised Midnight, giving her a treat from his pocket. Good girl. Find more. Find the bad air. Within the next 2 hours, Midnight located 2 more critical leaks that the damaged sensors had failed to detect. One was in the ventilation system near the dining hall. The other, more serious leak was hidden behind a storage panel in the medical bay. As they prepared to search the Ravi section of the outpost, Ambassador June approached Tejo. Your method appears to be working, the ambassador admitted, but our people are very afraid of the Nexwolf. Many have hidden in their private chambers. I understand, Tejo said, but time is running out. The leaks we've fixed have bought us maybe 12 more hours, but Jin believes there must be at least one major leak in your section as well. After a moment of consideration, June nodded. I will accompany you personally. Perhaps seeing their ambassador walk beside the predator will ease their fears. The Ravi section was eerily quiet as they entered. The curved corridors and dim lighting designed to make the insect-like aliens feel secure made Hanul nervous. I don't like this, she whispered. Too many shadows, too many hiding places. Midnight seemed to share her unease. The Nexwolf moved, cautiously, staying close to Tejo's side. Then suddenly her head snapped up. She began pulling on the leash, leading them deeper into the Ravi living area. She's onto something, Tejo said, letting Midnight guide them. The Nexwolf led them to a large communal space where the Ravi usually gathered for meals. No one was there now. Midnight circled the room, sniffing intently, before stopping at a decorative wall panel covered with symbols of the Ravi homeworld. She pawed at the floor and looked up at Tejo, giving the alert signal he had taught her. Behind that panel, Tejo said. Jin? The technician scanned the wall. She's right again. There's a major rupture in the main oxygen distribution line. This is the biggest leak yet. As Jin worked to repair the damage, Ambassador June stared at Midnight with new understanding in his compound eyes. The predator saved us, he said quietly. Without these repairs, we would have suffocated before help could arrive. Tejo knelt beside Midnight, rubbing her head affectionately. She's more than just a predator now. She's part of our team. Later that night, as technician Jin worked to repair the power coupling, she received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador, June entered the engineering bay, followed by two Ravi scientists. "We wish to help," June announced. "Our engineers have expertise in radiation shielding that might be useful in protecting the new power coupling." Jin looked surprised, but accepted their offer gratefully. In his quarters, Taeho sat with Midnight, who had been given extra food. As a reward for her life-saving work, Hanyul stopped by to deliver a status report. "The Ravi are actually helping with repairs now," she said, sounding amazed. "Jin thinks we'll have main." News about Midnight saving the outpost spread quickly. 1 week after the solar flare crisis, the entire Ravi fleet knew about the Nextwolf that had helped find the oxygen leaks. Many still feared the idea of a predator living among them, but curiosity was replacing terror. Captain Taeho sat in the newly repaired conference room with Science Officer Yoonji, preparing for an important meeting. Yoonji had arrived on the regular supply ship from Earth just 2 days after the crisis. Her specialty was xenobiology, the study of alien life forms. "The Ravi High Council has requested this presentation?" Yoonji asked, organizing her data, tablets. Taeho nodded. "They want to understand human-animal relationships. What we did with Midnight doesn't fit into their worldview. Their entire civilization developed around avoiding predators, not befriending them." "I brought everything they asked for," Yoonji said. "Historical records, scientific studies, even some personal testimonials." The door slid open, and Ambassador June entered with 5 elderly Ravi. Their exoskeletons had faded to a pale blue-green, marking their advanced age and high status. These were the High Council members who rarely left the safety of their ships. "Captain Kim," Ambassador June greeted him. "I present the High Council of the Ravi Collective. They have traveled here specifically to learn about your relationship with the Nextwolf." Taeho and Yoonji bowed respectfully. The oldest council member stepped forward, her movement slow but graceful. "I am Elder Sova," she introduced herself through her translator. "What we witnessed during the crisis challenges everything our species believes about predator-prey relationships. We wish to understand. Science Officer Yoonji will guide you through our history with animals," Taeho explained. "She is an expert in this field." Yoonji activated the main display screen. "I'll start at the beginning," she said. "Humans evolved on a planet filled with predators. Unlike your species, we couldn't hide underground or develop natural camouflage. Instead, we learned to use tools and work together." The screen showed ancient cave paintings depicting humans hunting alongside wolves. "Our first animal partnership began with wolves, which are similar to your Nextwolves in many ways," Yoonji continued. "About 15,000 years ago, some wolves began living near human camps, eating our food scraps. Over time, the friendlier wolves stayed closer to humans, while the aggressive ones remained wild." "You selected them based on behavior?" Elder Sova asked. "Yes," Yoonji confirmed. "Over many generations, these wolves changed. They became what we call dogs, animals that work with humans by choice." The display shifted to show different breeds of dogs, from tiny lap dogs to massive working breeds. "These are all the same species?" another council member asked in disbelief. "They all descended from wolves," Yoonji explained. "We bred them for different purposes: hunting, guarding, herding other animals, even just for companionship." "Companionship," Elder Sova repeated the word slowly. "Your species seeks companionship from predators?" "We seek relationships with many animals," Yoonji said, "not just predators." The presentation continued, showing humans throughout history living alongside horses, cats, birds, and even more exotic pets. The Ravi Council watched with growing fascination as Yoonji explained how working animals had helped shape human civilization. "In many ways humans might not have developed advanced technology without animal partnerships," she concluded. "They provided transportation, protection, hunting assistance, and pest control long before we had machines to do these jobs." Elder Sova's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "And what of the Nextwolf?" "Captain Kim found it injured and healed it. This we understand as mercy, though we would never show mercy to a predator. But what came after? The training, The bonding. This is different. May I suggest a demonstration? Teho asked. Midnight is just outside with Security Officer Hanul. After a brief discussion among themselves, the council agreed. Teho opened the door and Hanul entered with Midnight walking calmly beside her on a leash. The council members visibly tensed, their bodies instinctively shifting into defensive postures. It's okay, Teho assured them. She won't hurt anyone. He took the leash from Hanul and led Midnight to the center of the room. Sit, he commanded softly. The next wolf immediately sat, her golden eyes watching the Ravi with interest but no aggression. She obeys verbal commands, Teho explained. But more importantly, she trusts me and I trust her. This isn't just training, it's a relationship built on mutual benefit. What benefit does the predator receive? One council member asked. Food, shelter, medical care, protection from larger predators, Teho listed, and social connection. Many predator species are naturally social. They form packs or family groups in the wild. Elder Sova moved forward slowly, her eyes fixed on Midnight. May I observe more closely? Of course, Teho said. Midnight, stay. The elderly Ravi approached cautiously. Despite her age, she moved with the ancient wariness of prey before predator. When she was just 2 meters away, she stopped. This creature found the air leak that would have killed us all, she said quietly. A predator saved prey. This contradicts everything we know about the natural order. The natural order can change when intelligence is involved, Yunji suggested. Both humans and nextwolves are intelligent species. So are the Ravi. Intelligence allows us to form relationships that transcend instinct. After the council left, Ambassador June stayed behind. He seemed troubled. For thousands of years, my people have defined ourselves by our ability to hide from predators, he said. We built our cities underground. We developed technology to become invisible. Our entire culture is based on avoiding notice. And now? Teho asked. Now we must question whether this was the only path available to us, June replied. Perhaps there was another way. Perhaps we could have formed alliances as your species did. The next morning, Teho took Midnight for their regular walk around the outpost perimeter. To his surprise, he found Ambassador June waiting by the airlock. May I join you? The ambassador asked. Teho nodded, though he couldn't hide his surprise. Of course, Midnight is very calm today. They walked in silence for several minutes, the next wolf padding softly between them. Finally, June spoke. I have been authorized by the High Council to learn more about training predators, he said. They believe this knowledge could be valuable to our species. Teho smiled. I'd be happy to teach you. I should warn you, I have no experience with this. In my culture, approaching a predator voluntarily is considered a sign of mental illness. We'll start slowly, Teho assured him. First, you need to understand that fear is something the animal can sense. Predators are drawn to fear. That is not reassuring, June said, his antennae quivering slightly. Teho laughed. The point is to move past the fear, to see the animal as an individual, not just a threat. They continued walking, and Teho showed June how to hold the leash properly. By the end of their circuit, the ambassador had even managed to give Midnight a command, stop, which the next wolf obeyed immediately. That afternoon, Science Officer Yunji found Teho in the observation lounge. He was watching Ambassador June in the training area below, carefully offering a treat to Midnight under Hanul's supervision. This is remarkable progress, Yunji said. Just weeks ago, the Ravi wouldn't be in the same room as a next wolf without barriers. Teho nodded. It's changing how they see themselves and their place in the ecosystem. For millennia, they've defined themselves as prey. Now they're considering another identity. Partners, Yunji suggested. Exactly. Not just hiding from the dangerous parts of their world, but engaging with them, finding mutual benefit where they only saw threat. Below, Midnight gently took a treat from June's outstretched hand. The ambassador's body language showed nervous excitement rather than terror. The High Council is already discussing applications, Yunji told him. They're particularly interested in training Nexwolves to detect underground gas pockets that their mining operations often encounter. It could save many lives. From enemies to allies in less than a month, Taeho mused. All because of one injured Nexwolf, and one human who saw potential where others saw only danger, Yunji added. As they watched, Ambassador June reached out a trembling hand, and for the first time, touched Midnight's head. The Nexwolf leaned into the touch, just as she had done, with Taeho weeks earlier. I think, Taeho said quietly. We're witnessing the beginning of something important. 6 months had passed since Captain Taeho Kim first found the injured Nexwolf. The small outpost had grown into a bustling joint research facility. New buildings stretched across the clearing, including a large dome-shaped structure that housed the Ravi Human Cooperative Initiative. Taeho, now promoted to Xenobiological Relations Director, stood at the entrance of the training field. He watched with pride as 10 Ravi trainers worked with juvenile Nexwolves. Each trainer wore the new blue-green uniform of the Predator program, with a special insignia showing a human hand and Ravi claw joined together above a Nexwolf silhouette. I never thought I would see this day, Hanul said, joining him at the observation point. Ravi voluntarily touching predators, training them. It goes against everything we learned about their psychology. Taeho smiled. People can change, so can entire species, given the right motivation. In the center of the training field, Ambassador June, now Program Coordinator June, demonstrated proper handling techniques to a group of new Ravi recruits. Beside him trotted a sleek female Nexwolf with distinctive white markings on her face. Is that Snow? Taeho asked, referring to the first Nexwolf cub that June had personally trained. Hanul nodded. They've become inseparable. She even sleeps in his quarters now. After the demonstration ended, June walked over to join them. Snow followed at his side without a leash, responding to subtle hand signals from her trainer. Director Kim, June, greeted him formally, then relaxed into a more friendly tone. The new group shows great promise. 5 of them have already progressed to off-leash training. Excellent, Taeho replied. And how is the gas detection program coming along? Better than expected, June said. The Nexwolves can detect toxic gas pockets at concentrations far below our best sensors. Last week, a training pair identified a dangerous methane buildup in Mining Sector 7 before any alarms activated. They saved 43 lives. Hanul smiled. From feared predators to lifesavers in 6 months. That must be some kind of record. Midnight, now fully grown and magnificent, emerged from Taeho's office and trotted over to the group. She had become something of a celebrity among both humans and Ravi, the Nexwolf that started it all. She greeted Snow with a gentle touch of noses, then sat beside Taeho, alert and dignified. The High Council arrives tomorrow, June reminded them. They wish to observe our graduation ceremony. We'll be ready, Taeho assured him. The first official class of Ravi Nexwolf handlers. It's a historic moment. Later that afternoon, Taeho led a special training session for the most advanced students in the program. 10 Ravi handlers and their Nexwolf partners gathered in the outdoor arena. Unlike the early days when the Ravi had been nervous and stiff, around the predators these trainers moved with confidence, clearly comfortable with their animal partners. Today we'll practice search and rescue, Taeho announced. Technician Jin has hidden 10 volunteers throughout the nearby forest. Your Nexwolves must find them using scent alone. The exercise was designed to test both the Nexwolves' tracking abilities and the trainer's handling skills. Taeho watched with pride as the team set out, each Nexwolf focused intently on the task. Among the trainees was a young Ravi named Krell, who had once been so terrified of predators that he had fainted during his first class. Now he moved with his Nexwolf partner, Tracker, with perfect coordination. They were the first team to locate a hidden volunteer, finding her in less than 10 minutes. When all 10 volunteers had been found, the teams returned to the training field for evaluation. Taeho addressed the group with satisfaction. Excellent work, all of you. 6 months ago, the idea of Ravi and Nexwolves working together would have seemed impossible. You have proven that with understanding and patience, ancient fears can be overcome. Program Coordinator June stepped forward. Tomorrow, you will demonstrate these skills for the High Council. You represent the future of Ravi Nexwolf cooperation, a new chapter in our history. That evening, Taeho sat in his office reviewing reports when Science Officer Yoonji entered with a data tablet. The latest results from the genetic study, she said, placing the tablet on his desk. We've identified the genes responsible for social bonding in Nexwolves. They're remarkably similar to those found in Earth canines. So they were predisposed to forming bonds with other species, Taeho said thoughtfully. Just like wolves on Earth. Yoonji nodded. Given the right conditions, this partnership might have evolved naturally over thousands of years. You just accelerated the process. Not just me, Taeho corrected her. Everyone here, especially the Ravi who were willing to question their oldest instincts. The next morning, the outpost buzzed with activity as the High Council's ship landed on the newly constructed landing pad. Elder Sova led the delegation, accompanied by representatives from 12 Ravi colonies. The graduation ceremony was held in the main training arena. 10 Nexwolf Ravi teams stood at attention as Elder Sova addressed the gathering. When I first saw a human touch a Nexwolf without fear, I thought it was madness, she began, her translator conveying her words to both species. Our history taught us that predators were to be feared and avoided at all costs. We built our civilization on this belief. She paused, looking at the teams before her. But wisdom comes from being willing to learn new truths. The humans showed us another way, not hiding from the dangerous aspects of our world, but forming alliances with them. One by one, the Ravi handlers demonstrated their Nexwolves' abilities. The animals responded perfectly to commands, performed complex search tasks, and showed clear bonds with their trainers. When young Krell commanded Tracker to find a hidden object by scent alone, the Nexwolf completed the task in less than a minute, then returned to sit proudly beside his Ravi partner. After the demonstrations, Elder Sova presented each graduate with a special medallion, a symbol of their new status as certified Nexwolf handlers. The ceremony concluded with the announcement of the program's expansion. Based on the success we have witnessed today, Elder Sova declared, the High Council has approved the establishment of Nexwolf training centers on 3 Ravi colony worlds. What began as one human's compassion for an injured predator has grown into a partnership that will benefit both our species. At the reception following the ceremony, Taeho found himself standing with Hanul and Yoonji, watching as Ravi and human staff mingled easily, many with Nexwolves at their sides. Remember when they thought you were showing mercy to that injured Nexwolf? Hanul asked with a smile. Taeho nodded, watching as Midnight greeted a group of young Ravi children who had once been taught to hide at the first sign of a predator. Now they reached out with cautious excitement to touch her fur. They understand now, Yoonji said. It was never about mercy or domination. It was about partnership, Taeho finished. About seeing potential where others saw only threat. Across the room, Program Coordinator June was speaking with Elder Sova. Snow sat beside him, her posture alert but relaxed. When a server dropped a tray with a loud clatter, several Ravi jumped nervously, but the Nexwolves remained calm, looking to their handlers for guidance. The mining colony on Nexus 3 has requested a full team of handlers and Nexwolves, June informed Taeho as he joined their group. They believe the animals can help detect structural weaknesses in the tunnels before collapses occur. We'll need to expand the training program, Taeho replied. Are there enough volunteers? June's antennae twitched in what Taeho had learned was the Ravi expression of amusement. We have a waiting list of over 200 applicants, young Ravi who grew up hearing the story of Midnight saving the outpost. They want to be part of this new tradition. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Taeho took Midnight for their usual evening walk around the perimeter of the now expanded outpost. The Nexwolf moved easily beside him, no leash needed. She had come a long way from the injured predator he had found in the tall purple grass 6 months earlier. As they reached the edge of the forest, Taeho noticed a wild Nexwolf watching them from the shadows. The wild animal observed Midnight with evident curiosity, perhaps sensing something different about her. See that? Tejo said softly to Midnight. That could have been you. Just another predator in the forest. Midnight looked up at him, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. Then she pressed against his leg in a gesture of affection and trust that needed no translation. The Ravi who had been hiding from predators for millennia were learning what humans had discovered long ago, that sometimes the most dangerous path creates the strongest bond. That enemies could become allies, that fear could transform into partnership, and it had all started because one human had seen an injured next wolf and decided to help.